You're back with America's Forum on Newsmax TV. J.D. Hayworth, Ed Berliner, and John Bachman here on the desk. And John, I guess we'd call this our healthcare/politics part of our program.
Well, that's fair to say. Did you guys see that guy at the Rose Garden at the White House? You may not have recognized him because there was a look on his face and a vigor in his voice that we have not heard for quite some time. President Obama taking a victory lap yesterday to celebrate the 1.7 million people who we're told who have enrolled in Obamacare so far. He was also quick to shift blame onto those who have opposed the law.
Overcoming skepticism and fear of something new is hard. A lot of times folks would prefer the devil they know to the devil they don't.
Let me clarify. I think I said the wrong number. It's actually 7.1 million. But the total enrollment number that the president was so quick to celebrate, well, just like the law itself, those aren't without critics. Among the unconvinced, Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal. Jindal is calling for the law's repeal and outlined a Republican alternative to address concerns about the nation's health care system. Joining us right now to discuss all this is Ford O'Connell, a Republican strategist. Ford, so, you know, the president's saying here the argument is over. Those calling for repeal are simply wasting their time, but you hear Bobby Jindal coming out with this alternative. We've talked so much about the need for a Republican alternative. Are we anywhere closer to getting that, and how do Republicans play this with the president celebrating today?
Well, there are some alternatives basically shifting around. Senator Coburn, Burr, et cetera, have been putting them out there. But really the message for Republicans needs to be, put us back into power in Congress, and we're going to fix the Obamacare mess. And the reason is very simple. While Obamacare, most Americans vehemently detest it, a sizable majority don't want to see it repealed, according to the Kaiser Family Foundation study. So really, and the reason is because there's two popular provisions: covering kids up to 26 and basically covering pre-existing conditions. So that is what Republicans have to work with. They basically have to say, hey, we're going to come up with a solution to fix this, because repeal is not going to be a winning message for Republicans.
Well, Ford, here is another message the president offered from the Rose Garden yesterday afternoon as part of this victory lap. I want you to listen to this, then get your reaction on this. Take a listen.
History is not kind to those who would deny Americans their basic economic security. Nobody remembers well those who stand in the way of America's progress or our people. And that's what the Affordable Care Act represents.
Well, the president lecturing all of us again, but Ford, there's the basic question of the role of government. Is it the responsibility of our government to provide health care to the people? Is this really the basic economic security the president is suggesting?
Well, this is basically the economic security that liberals are touting, and obviously conservatives don't agree with it. But unfortunately, because this is the law, he will be president for 2 more years, and essentially we don't know if Republicans are going to win the White House in 2016. The fact still remains that we're in a legislatively untenable situation, and that is we can't be seen as snatching back health insurance from the 1 to 2 million who were previously insured, who now may or may not actually have health insurance. So this is really the area where Republicans find themselves. They can't go and snatch that back, but what they can do is they can try to fix it. And one of the things that Obamacare doesn't do is keep the cost curve down. And the two things that Republicans should be internally talking about when fixing it is overcoming basically, tort reform, and essentially pushing insurance so that it can be sold across state lines. The key here is cost containment, and that's a conservative idea. I agree. I'm not so sure that that is what conservative thinking is, but again, right now, this is the law, and that's the parameters within which we work.
John, you said something earlier that caught my attention, where you said, put us back into power. I have to tell you, there's an awful lot of people out there that say, why would we want to put you back into power when you don't have anything to really sell us? And why don't you tell us what you're going to do? There seems to be a sales message here. The Democrats have done a marvelous job since the Obama administration began in selling themselves. The Republicans have done a terrible job of selling themselves. Now, Bobby Jindal comes out with his plan, which says it would expand coverage to less than 10 million Americans, far fewer than the 30 million Obamacare aims to cover by 2022. There are currently an estimated 50 million people in America without health insurance. That's according to the news reports. So seriously, we have Americans out there saying, why put you in power? You haven't given me anything that's really substantive and really answers a lot of the questions.
Well,
Fair?
that's exactly right. We can't be the party of no. We have to be the party of solutions. Now, here's what I will say. There is no guarantee that Obamacare is actually going to cover those 30 to 48 million who are currently uninsured. And frankly,
Correct.
Bobby Jindal's plan will actually do it faster than what the current CBO projections are with respect to Obamacare. I agree with you. And that's why we saw yesterday Paul Ryan put out a budget. What he was trying to do is basically have a campaign playbook with respect to fiscal policy and a way to differentiate themselves from the Democrats. I agree with you, and I've been saying this ever since the Supreme Court ruled on Obamacare. We're going to have to come up with a solution, and this is one of the ways to do it. But right now, because there's a little bit of internal strife, instead of getting down to the minutia, what we need to be doing is putting out a blueprint, and that's why I discussed fixing tort reform and pushing insurance across state lines.
Well, Ford, let me ask you about Paul Ryan's budget here. Dick Morris said that the Republicans in the House should reject that budget. We heard JD's commentary on it, not a big fan of it. And especially after Paul Ryan's budget that he worked on with Democrat Patty Murray, is there really anybody listening to Paul Ryan when it comes to these budgetary issues? I know he's supposed to be the guy out there for the GOP as the Budget Committee chairman, but has he lost some of that sway that he had with conservatives now that he's done this with Patty Murray here? There were some issues in there, leaving out those veterans benefits, I think. You know, is this really a budget that the Republican Party is going to rally behind?
You got to look at what Paul Ryan's budget really is. It's a campaign document, okay? Moderate Republicans are going to duck from it because the Democrats are going to come out there and basically play up the Republicans hate the poor, and they're going to put the meta-scare out there. And folks like JD, I love JD to death, but folks like JD feel that it doesn't go far enough. Remember, here's the deal what Paul Ryan was trying to do. He's trying to fire up the base while simultaneously mitigating the Democrats knocking the budget down. And it's one of these things that this has got to be seen as a campaign document and a blueprint, not an exact science and a model for exactly what we should be doing, but it hits the top level ideas. And the idea of balancing the budget and trying to simultaneously promote growth is a very conservative idea and something that the base could rally around. But again, it depends how Republicans market this budget. And if they run away from it, it's one more thing they don't have in their arsenal, and Democrats are going to hit them on it anyway.
Well, listen, we understand, and Ford will begin with a point of agreement. I understand it is a campaign document. It is an aspirational document, if you will. And then in terms of party discipline, as the Republicans have to put forth a budget, they will obviously do so. My concern more is really where Paul Ryan ends up on the national landscape with this embrace of trying to reconcile the establishment. Oh, and by the way, going out to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce and pandering for amnesty. I got to tell you, with the base of the party, Paul is doing himself no favors, even acknowledging the difference between what you do as a legislative leader and what you do as you look ahead to national prominence on a future national ballot, if you will.
Well, Paul Ryan, I agree with you, lost some cachet with the base with respect to promoting amnesty, but I will say this, you just hit the nail really on the head. And that is the fact that when it comes to elections, emotions always trump rational thinking. And unfortunately, no one wants to know how the sausage is made with respect to legislation. And that's something that Paul Ryan is actually out there trying to do. But unfortunately, emotions run high, and rational thinking does not win elections.
Well, now, Ford, I don't think you're calling me irrational just because I'm a guts-up conservative, but that's a discussion we'll have on another day. I got you, pal. Hey, I appreciate your time, Ford. We look forward to visiting with you again real soon. So, there's the question. Am I irrational for being a guts-up conservative? You can check out social media and let us know. Tweet us at NewsmaxTV, #America's